Welcome, dear listener. Tonight we journey to a realm where gods and mortals share timeless stories. The air is filled with whispers of wisdom, courage, and choices that shape the heart of humanity itself. Among the Olympian gods, one figure rises with calm strength and clear eyes. Athena, goddess of wisdom. She is the guardian of truth, protector of fairness, and guide of those who seek balance in their lives. Her stories are not of conquest or force, but of thought, reason, and the light of justice shining gently. Long ago, a sacred crown was created, not of jewels or gold, but of honesty, fairness, and divine promise. This was the crown of justice, entrusted to Athena, so that neither gods nor mortals would misuse its power. It was said the crown could remind hearts of the difference between pride and truth, selfishness and fairness. But legends tell us that even the purest light may dim when shadows of ambition begin to cloud human hearts. Our story tonight follows Athena as she walks among mortals, disguised, seeking wisdom beyond Olympus halls. She will face voices of pride, of mercy, and of reason, each demanding what they believe is the true justice. Stay with me and listen closely as the journey begins with Athena and the crown of justice. The prophecy was not written in stone, nor shouted from the heights of Olympus. It came as a whisper carried by the winds across seas and mountains. Travelers spoke of it in quiet tones at firesides, afraid of its weight. They said the world would one day face a trial of balance and fairness. The prophecy spoke of a crown unlike any mortal treasure. It was not forged for kings, nor worn to dazzle crowds with glittering light. The crown of justice, they said, was shaped by the hands of the divine. It carried no gems, no metals, only the brilliance of truth itself. The gods entrusted it to Athena, the one who loved wisdom above pride. She was chosen because her heart remained steady even when storms raged. The whisper told of a time when the crown's power would be tested. If lost, justice might fade, and humanity could drown in confusion. No battles were foretold, no armies in shining armor. Instead, the prophecy warned of something quieter, but more dangerous. The danger was pride, greed, and the blindness of ambition. For when mortals claimed they understood justice, they often saw only themselves. Athena listened when the words reached Olympus, carried by winds of fate. Her gaze turned downward, watching the mortal world with silent thought. She saw cities growing strong, but also restless hearts among the people. Each believed their way was the truest, their voice the clearest of all. In the bustling markets, traders argued that fairness was profit shared. In the grand courts, rulers proclaimed that order was the highest justice. On the fields, farmers prayed for rain, calling justice the blessing of balance. In humble homes, mothers and fathers saw justice as safety for their children. Everywhere Athena looked, justice was defined differently. Each vision carried truth, but also a shadow of selfishness. The whisper of prophecy was growing louder, weaving into mortal lives. Soon the question of who should hold the crown would reach every heart. Some believed only rulers could guide it with authority and strength. Others said scholars and wise men should guard its sacred meaning. Still more insisted healers and caregivers understood compassion best. Each voice believed the crown belonged to them, and them alone. Athena knew this was the beginning of the prophecy's path. It was not about war, but about understanding and balance. She rose from her throne in Olympus, her eyes calm but firm. She understood the world was not ready to see her in divine form. So she prepared herself to descend among mortals in disguise. Not as a goddess blazing with light, but as a traveler of humble form. Her purpose was not to command, but to listen, not to hand down judgment, but to discover the truth of justice in mortal lives. For the prophecy was never about who could own the crown. It was about who could carry its light in their hearts and deeds. The whisper of the prophecy was becoming a call, and Athena, guardian of wisdom, was ready to answer. The journey was beginning, not with thunder, but with quiet steps. It was a path that would lead to voices of pride, reason, and compassion. And through them, the goddess would find the meaning the prophecy concealed. The crown of justice was safe in her keeping, yet its truth had to be revealed. So she descended, wrapped in silence, carrying not a weapon, but resolve. The world would soon learn what the prophecy truly meant. Long before mortals argued about the meaning of justice, the crown itself was born in divine fire. Hephaestus, the master craftsman of Olympus, shaped it with hands steady as mountains. His forge glowed with light brighter than the sun, yet no flame touched the metal of the crown. For it was not made from gold or silver, but from threads of truth woven into form. Each strike of his hammer rang like a promise, binding honesty to every curve. Zeus, king of the gods, watched as sparks leapt into the air like stars. He spoke with gravity, saying the crown must carry the strength of divine authority. Athena stood nearby, silent but watchful, her wisdom guiding the work in spirit. Hephaestus carved symbols across its surface, shapes not of power, but of balance. Every line carried meaning: fairness, mercy, reason, and the courage to decide justly. When it was finished, the crown shone with a glow, soft but unending. It had no jewels, no gems, yet its light could calm the most restless heart. The gods gathered in solemn silence as the crown was lifted high. They understood it was more than a gift. It was a responsibility. Zeus placed his hand above it, blessing it with a voice of thunder. His words echoed, "This crown shall remind all that justice belongs to none alone." Poseidon spoke next, adding the patience of tides and the endurance of waves. Hera whispered blessings of care, reminding that justice must protect the vulnerable. Even Apollo's music wove into it, promising harmony when voices clashed in dispute. And so the crown became more than an object. It became the symbol of balance itself. But the gods could not keep it in Olympus, for its purpose lay with mortals. They chose Athena, the goddess whose wisdom tempered strength with reason. Zeus declared, "You will guard this crown, for only your hand resists pride's lure." Athena accepted, though she did not smile, for she knew the weight of such duty. The crown was set in her care, not to rule, but to remind. She placed it within a shrine of light, hidden from mortal desire. Only those who sought truth with pure hearts could ever glimpse its glow. And in ages past, few dared to search, fearing their own reflection in its shine. Yet whispers spread through time, carried by poets, dreamers, and seekers of fairness. They said whoever looked upon the crown felt their soul tested. Some wept, realizing justice was not what they thought it to be. Others turned away, afraid to see themselves clearly in its light. The crown waited, silent, for those willing to bear its truth. Athena often visited it in quiet moments, gazing with steady eyes. She never placed it on her head, for even she knew its weight. It was not hers to claim, but hers to protect from folly. The gods respected her guardianship, trusting her to keep the crown safe. But the mortal world was changing, and ambition grew like fire in dry grass. Athena knew the time would come when the crown could not remain hidden. The prophecy warned of voices that would rise, each demanding its power. And so, Though the crown's origin was pure, its future was uncertain. For justice itself is not a treasure to be locked away. It must live, breathed in by mortals, tested in choices both great and small. The crown was a guide, not a throne, and Athena knew its lesson. It was a symbol that would one day shape destiny if mortals chose to listen. And so the tale of the crown's beginning was complete, but its story had just begun. Whispers drifted through the streets of mortal cities, soft at first, then louder with every passing season. Merchants in crowded markets claimed the sacred crown had been hidden somewhere upon the earth. Some said Athena placed it in a mountain cave, far from greedy hands and restless ambition. Others swore it lay beneath the sea, guarded by spirits who knew no fear or hunger. But no one truly knew, and so rumor became fuel for endless debate and speculation. At first, the talk was harmless, a curiosity shared in taverns and courts. Yet, as the tale spread, the meaning of justice itself began to fracture. Rulers declared that only they, with their power, had the right to wear such a crown. Scholars argued fiercely that wisdom alone could guard its true light and prevent corruption. Priests preached that justice was divine, and only the pious could hold the crown. Ordinary people, too, dreamed that perhaps fairness should rest in the hands of all. Each vision clashed with the next, and harmony began to slip away like sand. In villages, neighbors argued about fairness in trade and kindness in judgment. In cities, council halls rang with speeches about authority, law, and order. Even families quarreled at night, each convinced they understood justice better than the rest. The disturbance did not come from swords or soldiers, but from voices and pride. It was a storm of ideas, each loud, each certain, and none willing to yield. Athena, watching from Olympus, saw the subtle unrest take root in human hearts. She did not see war, but something more dangerous, the slow unraveling of trust. For when people cannot agree on what is fair, every decision becomes a wound. The crown, though hidden, was stirring their desires, a symbol they could not ignore. Some sought it for power, believing authority alone was justice made real. Others dreamed of mercy, convinced compassion was the highest form of fairness. Still others wanted reason, the clear voice of thought above all emotion and need. Each group grew more certain, their certainty blinding them to the balance justice requires. Athena listened to prayers rising from temples, each one begging for the crown's return. Some prayers were humble, asking for guidance and light. Others dripped with ambition, demanding strength to rule over rivals. The goddess frowned, for she knew the prophecy had begun to unfold. The crown itself had not been touched, yet already it was dividing mortal hearts. This was the disturbance the whisper had foretold. Not war, but confusion. Not bloodshed, but the quiet crumbling of unity between families, friends, and nations. A traveler in one city told of a dream where the crown shone above a hill. Crowds gathered to argue if the vision was true or a trick of restless sleep. Elsewhere, a poet sang verses about justice, claiming the crown was only a metaphor. His words inspired some, but angered others, who wanted proof of its light. Day by day, faith in fairness faltered, replaced by suspicion and distrust. The people began to see enemies not in foreign lands, but in their neighbors. Athena's heart grew heavy as she watched from the marble halls of Olympus. The prophecy warned of imbalance, and now she saw it rising like smoke. She knew the crown's power was safe, untouched in her hidden shrine. But power is not only in objects, it is in belief, in stories, in dreams. And mortals, driven by their desires, were shaping the world with restless words. The goddess realized she could not remain distant, watching from above. she would need to walk among them, unseen, to hear their voices herself. For justice could not be protected by silence or hidden crowns alone. It had to be understood, lived, and shared by those who spoke its name. And so, with quiet resolve, Athena prepared to step into the mortal world. The disturbance was only beginning, and her journey was about to unfold. Athena sat in silence upon the heights of Olympus, her gaze fixed on the restless earth below. The voices of mortals rose like a storm, their arguments clashing across the lands. They spoke of justice, yet their words carried shadows of pride and selfish desire. Athena's heart was steady, yet concern weighed upon her like a cloak of stone. The prophecy whispered in her mind, a reminder that balance could not be ignored. Justice, she knew, was fragile when divided into fragments of ambition. The goddess turned to the hidden shrine where the crown of justice lay in safety. Its light glowed softly, untouched, yet its influence rippled far beyond its resting place. Athena reached out, not to take the crown, but to feel its calm radiance. The glow seemed to ask a question: who shall remind mortals of what justice truly means? She thought of her fellow gods, each great but bound by pride or passion. Zeus ruled with thunder, but his hand was heavy with authority. Poseidon's heart was vast, yet his temper was restless as the sea. Ares thrived on conflict, unfit to guide mortals toward peace and fairness. Even wise Apollo saw harmony through beauty, but not through judgment. No, this task belonged to her, for she alone cherished wisdom above desire. She understood that justice was not thunder, nor sea, nor war, nor song. Justice was listening, balancing, and guiding without taking more than was given. And so Athena made her choice. She would leave Olympus to walk among mortals, not as a goddess shining in splendor, but as one of them, humble and unseen. For mortals would not open their hearts to thunder or lightning, but to quiet presence. She wove a cloak of disguise, simple cloth that dimmed her divine radiance. Her spear and shield she left behind, carrying instead only knowledge and resolve. Athena descended from Olympus, her steps light upon the wind and cloud. She crossed the boundary between gods and mortals, entering the world of men. The cities stretched before her, filled with voices both hopeful and troubled. In the marketplace, she heard merchants shout of fairness in profit and trade. In the courts, she saw rulers boasting that law alone defined what was just. By the rivers, she watched farmers pray for rain, equating balance with nature's mercy. Everywhere, she saw fragments of justice, true yet incomplete on their own. She walked among them unseen, a traveler with calm eyes and gentle words. She listened, asking simple questions, letting mortals reveal their thoughts freely. Some spoke of justice as punishment, harsh but swift in its finality. Others believed it was mercy, soft and forgiving even to the guilty. Still others called it reason, the careful weighing of truth above emotion. Athena gathered these voices, storing them like threads in her mind's loom. She knew each held a piece of the truth, but not the whole picture. Mortals sought the crown because they mistook it for ownership, not guidance. They longed to possess justice, not to live it, and therein lay the danger. Athena sighed as she watched children argue over a simple game of stones. Even in play, pride made them quarrel, each claiming victory as their right. She knelt and spoke softly, teaching them that fairness was in sharing, not conquest. Their laughter returned, and for a moment, the world seemed lighter. Athena rose, reminded that justice was taught in small acts, not grand displays. Yet she knew greater trials awaited, for leaders and thinkers hungered for the crown. Her journey was only beginning, and every step carried the weight of prophecy. For now, Athena walked quietly among mortals, her heart steady, her purpose clear. She had chosen to leave Olympus not to command, but to understand. And in the silence of her journey, justice itself began to walk beside her. Athena walked farther into the world of mortals, where voices wove a tapestry of countless desires. Each city seemed like a labyrinth, full of alleys where ambition and hope intertwined in intricate ways. The markets overflowed with victuals, colors of fruit and grain forming a mosaic of abundance and need. She paused to listen, for every cry and whisper was part of a kaleidoscopic chorus orchestrated by humanity. One merchant spoke of fairness in weight, yet his rival claimed justice meant victory and profit. Athena watched, silent, as their argument revealed how easily truth could be reimagined. Justice was not in coins alone, nor in abundance, but in balance that transcended greed. She walked onward, her eyes tracing the verdant fields where farmers toiled with aching devotion. Here, she saw resilience and the crucible of survival where justice was measured in harvests. The soil itself seemed to beckon her, whispering of cycles that orchestrates fairness beyond human hands. Athena knelt to touch the earth, feeling its intricate web of roots intertwined beneath. Life itself was a captivating teacher, showing that harmony was woven from both gift and toil. She rose and entered the courts of a ruler famed for wisdom, yet shadowed by pride. The ruler declared, "Law is justice," yet his judgment leaned toward those who fed his power. Athena listened to his words, enigmatic and polished, yet hollow when weighed against truth. She realized then that mortals often confuse justice with authority, as if crowns could command it. But justice was not a crown to wear. It was a path to walk. Leaving the court, she embarked on quieter streets, where storytellers shared lessons of old. Their tales, though simple, carried echoes of wisdom that could certainly transcend ages. Children gathered, their eyes wide, captivated by songs where heroes sought fairness over glory. Athena smiled, for here was the mosaic she sought, stories binding justice with hope. Each tale was a thread in the larger tapestry, fragile but radiant when intertwined together. Still, she knew the journey was only beginning, and trials yet awaited her resolve. The prophecy whispered once more, enigmatic and soft, reminding her of the crown's weight. Mortals still longed for it, certain it would grant them command of fairness eternal. Athena walked on, her heart steady, ready to delve deeper into their labyrinth of dreams. Every step was a crucible, every voice a beacon, shaping the kaleidoscopic truth of justice. And in that intricate journey, she knew she must remain both teacher and silent witness. Athena journeyed into a valley where the air was thick with debate and the sound of restless crowds. At the heart of the gathering stood philosophers, each eager to define what justice truly meant. One raised his hand and spoke of reason, claiming logic alone could shape the perfect balance. Another countered with passion, declaring that compassion must weigh heavier than rules and law. A third shouted that strength was justice, for without power, no order could be maintained. Athena listened, unseen, as their voices wove a storm of conviction, each certain of truth. The people around them nodded or shook their heads, swayed by the tide of arguments. Athena knew then that mortals loved to chase answers in words more than in actions. Yet even so, she honored their pursuit, for questions were sparks that could light wisdom. She stepped closer, disguised still as a traveler, and softly asked, "What if justice is shared? The philosophers paused, unsettled, for her question pierced deeper than their practiced speeches. Shared justice meant no single hand held all power, but all voices carried weight together. Some scoffed, saying mortals were too flawed to share such responsibility without corruption. Others grew thoughtful, as if her words uncovered a path they had overlooked too long. Athena moved on, leaving the seeds of her thought behind like hidden roots in soil. Farther along, she came upon a hall where artists painted visions of heroes and kings. The walls shone with colors, each stroke glorifying triumphs, victories, and the glory of rule. Athena lingered, tracing the images with her eyes, noting what was missing in their beauty. There were crowns, swords, and golden robes, but no scenes of fairness in daily lives. No simple kindness painted, no balance depicted in the scales of common hearts. Athena sighed, for even art, in its brilliance, often celebrated conquest more than justice. She approached a young painter struggling with a blank canvas, hands trembling with hesitation. He confessed, "I wish to paint fairness, but I do not know its face." Athena smiled gently and told him, "Paint the faces of those who stand together." The Sakya youth's eyes lit with sudden clarity, and he began to paint children sharing bread. The brush danced with new purpose, capturing a truth that crowns and swords could not show. Athena departed, knowing justice's reflection would shine through the canvas into future hearts. That night she wandered beneath stars, the sky vast, its constellations eternal in silence. She thought of the gods above, watching, perhaps wondering why she lingered so long below. The crown of justice glimmered in her memory, glowing faintly like a star among stars. She knew mortals would soon grow restless, seeking the crown with ambition and desire. The whispers of prophecy reminded her, the crown was not protection, but a mirror. It would show mortals their own hearts, magnifying what they brought to it. If greed, it would breed discord. If wisdom, it would strengthen harmony. Athena lay upon the grass, her eyes open to the sky, her thoughts steady. She understood her journey was not to guard the crown, but to prepare the people. Justice could not be gifted like a jewel. It must be lived as breath itself. And so, as the night deepened, Athena resolved to guide through presence, not possession. She would continue her path, unseen yet felt, until the truth of justice grew roots. The valley slept, the stars wheeled overhead, and Athena carried the silence within her. Athena's journey led her to a coastal city where waves echoed like drums against the stone walls. The harbor was alive with sails and shouts, merchants and sailors weaving commerce across the seas. Yet beneath the noise, Athena sensed tension, a fragile thread tugged by greed and mistrust. Ships carried treasures, but disputes over ownership and fairness spilled into quarrels along the docks. One sailor shouted, "The sea belongs to all," while another cried, "Its bounty is mine alone." Athena listened, knowing the ocean itself was a teacher of balance and reciprocity. The tide gave and took, never favoring one shore, always returning what it carried away. She stepped quietly into the marketplace, where leaders gathered to settle disputes through heated words. A council debated over fishing rights, each voice rising above the other like crashing waves. One elder argued for rules that protected all, while another demanded privilege for the wealthy. The people listened, torn, their faces reflecting both hope and frustration at the endless debate. Athena, still in her humble disguise, asked a simple question that silenced the hall. What does the sea teach you, if not that balance must be shared to endure? The words lingered, echoing in their minds, like the rhythm of the tide. Some nodded with slow understanding, while others clenched fists, unwilling to yield their advantage. Athena knew then that truth was never accepted at once, but planted like a seed. She left the hall, walking to the edge of the shore where children played in sand. They built castles with moats, laughing as waves slowly reclaimed their creations with gentle persistence. Athena watched and whispered, "Justice is like the tide, always returning, always reshaping what stands." The children did not understand her words, but they felt the calm in her presence. Later, she walked inland, where a small village gathered for a festival of light and song. Here, justice was celebrated not in laws, but in unity, each person offering something to share: a loaf of bread, a song, a dance, a story, woven together into harmony of community. Athena smiled. For this was justice lived, simple and quiet, without crowns or proclamations. An elder woman told a tale of ancestors who survived famine by sharing every crumb. Her voice trembled but carried strength, and the people listened with reverence and gratitude. Athena realized then that justice thrived not only in courts, but in traditions of memory. It was sustained in rituals of kindness passed down like sacred flame through generations. The festival ended with lanterns lifted to the sky, glowing sparks drifting toward the stars. Athena gazed upward, reminded once more of Olympus, yet her heart stayed rooted below. The crown of justice glimmered faintly in her thoughts, calling with both promise and warning. She understood more clearly now. Mortals must learn to see justice not as possession. It must be lived in daily bread, in shared burdens, in voices lifted together. As the lanterns faded into the night, Athena walked on, carrying the light within her. Her path stretched farther, each step weaving her wisdom with the lives of mortals. And though unseen, her presence shaped them, like the tide shaping the shore with patience. Justice was not a single act or decree. It was a rhythm, a living song. Athena continued, her resolve firm, ready to guide wherever shadows of imbalance appeared next. Athena's path carried her into the mountains, where the air was thin and the sky stretched endlessly. Villages clung to the slopes, humble homes built of stone, their people hardened by wind and snow. Here, survival was not abundance, but endurance, each life woven tightly to the strength of others. She watched as neighbors worked together, hauling wood, sharing grain, mending walls battered by storms. Justice here was not debated in courts or written in scrolls, but lived in necessity. Without unity, no family could last a single winter, and all understood this truth. Athena admired their resilience, for in hardship, fairness grew not from wealth, but from need. One evening, she joined a gathering where the villagers shared their stories by firelight. An elder spoke of the mountain, calling it a guardian that watched over their lives. "The mountain," he said, "teaches us balance, for it gives water but demands respect in return." Athena listened, noting how their wisdom mirrored the sea's lesson of reciprocity. Nature itself was the teacher, and mortals learned justice not through crowns, but through survival. As the fire crackled, a dispute arose over hunting grounds between two neighboring families. Each claimed the land, their voices sharp, their pride battling even amidst the cold necessity. The villagers turned to the elder, who hesitated, his judgment clouded by ties and history. Athena stepped forward quietly, still cloaked in her mortal guise, her voice calm as the wind. She asked, "What does the mountain teach when snow falls equally on all roofs?" The families fell silent, reflecting, for her words dissolved pride into something larger than themselves. They realized no single hand could claim what nature spread evenly across the valley. The dispute softened, and the families agreed to share, each hunting in turn with fairness. Athena felt the spark of balance restored, not by command, but by awakening understanding. Later that night, she climbed higher, alone, her steps echoing softly on the rocky path. The stars glimmered closer here, and the silence was so vast it pressed against her heart. She thought of the crown of justice, waiting in its shrine, untouched yet deeply desired. Each lesson she witnessed among mortals became another thread in the tapestry of its meaning. The crown was not meant to be a prize, but a reflection of what already lived. If mortals learned to see justice in the mountain, in the sea, in each other, they would need no crown. But prophecy still whispered, reminding her that mortals longing for symbols could not be ignored. She descended at dawn, where golden light touched the peaks and the valley stirred awake. Children chased goats along the slopes, their laughter breaking the solemn silence of stone. Athena smiled, for in their play, she saw fairness unfold naturally without rules or laws. One child fell, and another helped, not for reward, but because kindness was instinct. This was the seed of justice she sought. Action born of empathy, not ambition. Athena knew her journey must continue, for other lands wrestled with imbalance in many forms. The mountain gave her a gift that morning, a lesson of endurance, quiet and eternal. Justice, she realized, was not a treasure to be claimed, but a rhythm to be remembered. As the path led her down into greener valleys, her heart carried the mountain's truth. Athena walked on, unseen yet ever present, guiding where pride threatened to drown fairness. And with each step, she felt the prophecy drawing closer, its weight humming in her soul. Athena journeyed into the wide plains where the earth stretched endlessly beneath the open sky. Here, fields rippled with grain, and rivers wound gently, feeding life to farms and families alike. The people of the plains lived by harvest, measuring fairness by the sharing of bread. Athena walked among them, unnoticed, her eyes tracing the rhythm of their daily labor. Children carried water, mothers ground flour, fathers turned soil, all bound by the land's mercy. Yet beneath the harmony, she sensed tension, like clouds gathering before an unseen storm. In the marketplace, voices rose as merchants quarreled over measures of wheat and barley. One accused another of deceit, claiming the scales tipped unfairly, robbing him of rightful share. The crowd gathered, each face marked by hunger and fear of scarcity in coming days. Athena stood silent, listening, watching as suspicion threatened to unravel the fragile peace. The village elder approached, but his words carried little weight against swelling frustration. Athena stepped forward, her presence quiet yet commanding, her gaze steady as morning light. She asked, "What binds you more, coins in a pouch, or the bread that feeds your children?" The words struck deep, and murmurs shifted, doubt giving way to reflection. A mother stepped out, holding a loaf baked from shared flour after last season's poor harvest. She said, "When we joined together, no child went hungry, no home was left in sorrow." The reminder softened hearts, and slowly, pride gave way to remembrance of past unity. The merchants lowered their voices, ashamed of placing gain above the well-being of their kin. Athena's heart warmed, for fairness returned not by judgment, but by memory of compassion. Later, as the sun dipped low, she walked the riverbank, where reeds whispered in the wind. A boy sat there, weeping quietly, clutching a broken toy carved from simple wood. Athena knelt beside him, her voice gentle, asking why tears flowed on such a golden day. The boy said, "My friend broke it, and would not mend it, though we always played together. Athena smiled softly, telling him, "The river flows onward, yet it never keeps its waters." He frowned, but then she explained, "Friendship is the same, giving, returning, never holding tight." The boy rose, toy still broken, yet his face brighter, eager to forgive and play again. In that moment, Athena saw how justice begins in small hearts before it shapes nations. That night, a feast filled the village, tables set beneath stars, music drifting into the dark. Athena sat among them, sharing bread and laughter, her mortal guise blending into the crowd. The air was thick with gratitude, the kind that blooms when trust has been restored. As she looked around, she realized the crown of justice was not a solitary jewel. It was scattered in fragments, hidden in every act of fairness, kindness, and shared struggle. Her journey was not to seize, but to gather, to remind, to kindle the embers of truth. The plains had taught her that fairness was fragile, but also resilient when nurtured by memory. She left before dawn, the horizon blazing with fire as the first light touched the fields. Behind her, the laughter of children echoed, mingling with the whisper of growing grain. Ahead, the road called her further, each step carrying her deeper into the prophecy's heart. The crown waited, but so, too, did the lessons mortals must learn before it could shine. Athena pressed onward, her spirit steady, the plain's truth etched forever in her soul. Athena's path now led her into a dense forest, where light filtered softly through towering trees. The air was cool, rich with the scent of pine and the quiet hum of hidden creatures. Here, mortals lived in small circles, crafting homes from wood, their lives bound to the forest's rhythm. They honored the trees, the rivers, the deer that roamed, knowing their survival depended on respect. Athena watched as they whispered prayers before cutting wood, offering thanks before taking from the land. Justice here was not about disputes of wealth, but about balance between need and preservation. Yet beneath this harmony, Athena sensed unrest, a shadow creeping silently beneath the leaves. A quarrel arose between two clans who shared the same forest, but held different customs. One believed hunting freely was their right, while the other placed limits to protect the herds. The argument grew tense, threatening to splinter the fragile bond that held them together. Athena stepped among them, cloaked still in mortal guise, her eyes calm, yet filled with knowing. She asked, "Does the forest give endlessly, or does it wither when too much is taken?" Her words echoed, and silence fell, for all had seen patches of land turned barren. The elder of one clan lowered his head, recalling winters when game vanished from their traps. Another elder sighed, admitting their children deserved to inherit woods that still offered abundance. Slowly, pride yielded to wisdom, and the clans agreed to hunt with care and rotation. Athena smiled gently, for balance returned not through victory, but through shared responsibility. That evening, the clans gathered by fire, weaving songs of the forest into their celebration. Children danced, their laughter rising into the branches like birds greeting the twilight sky. Athena joined quietly, eating roots, berries, and bread offered by grateful hands. In their joy, she saw how fairness flourished when mortals treated nature as kin, not prey. Later, as the moon climbed high, Athena wandered deeper into the forest, seeking solitude. She came upon a grove where an ancient oak rose, vast and solemn, roots like rivers. The air shimmered there, as if the earth itself remembered countless stories in silence. Athena rested her hand upon the bark, feeling wisdom pulse deep beneath her touch. She whispered, "Justice is not a crown. but a promise kept between life and life. The tree creaked softly, as though answering, its leaves shivering with silver moonlight. She closed her eyes, and visions stirred, of the crown waiting, glowing faintly in its shrine. It pulsed not with power to rule, but with the weight of choices mortals must make. When she opened her eyes, she felt renewed, the forest's lesson etched into her soul. Justice, she realized, was a covenant, an unspoken bond between humans and the living world. At dawn, mist coiled through the trees as she prepared to leave the woodland behind. The clans gathered to thank her, though they did not know her true name or form. They offered her a carved pendant, shaped like a leaf, as a token of gratitude. She accepted with a smile, for it carried not gold or power, but memory of truth. As she stepped onto the road once more, birds sang, and the forest breathed in peace. Athena carried its song within her, knowing it would guide her toward the trials ahead. The prophecy loomed closer, each lesson binding her more deeply to the meaning of the crown. Yet she felt no fear, only a quiet certainty that truth would reveal itself in time. The forest had shown her that justice endures when mortals remember they are not alone. With steady steps, Athena pressed onward, her heart aligned with the rhythm of the earth. At last, Athena reached the shrine where the crown of justice had rested for countless ages. The air was still, heavy with memory, as though time itself bowed to the sacred place. The shrine was simple, carved of stone, embraced by ivy, and guarded only by silence. Within, the crown gleamed faintly, its light neither gold nor silver, but a quiet radiance. It seemed less like an object of power and more like a reflection of hidden truth. Athena stepped closer, her heart steady yet filled with the weight of her long journey. She had seen the sea, the mountains, the plains, and the forest each offer their lessons. Each land had taught her that justice was not a throne, but a bond among all beings. She stood before the crown, her hand hovering as if to claim what prophecy promised. But in that stillness, she understood. The crown was never meant to be taken at all. It was a mirror, showing mortals and gods alike the justice they must live themselves. She whispered, "Justice cannot be worn. It must be carried in the heart of every soul." As her words lingered, the crown shimmered, glowing brighter, then softening into quiet starlight. The light spread through the shrine, seeping into stone, earth, and sky beyond its walls. It flowed like water, carrying the lessons she had gathered back into the mortal world. Athena felt no triumph, only peace, for she knew the crown's power now belonged to all. Mortals would not find it in gold, but in kindness, fairness, and the balance of life. The prophecy was fulfilled not by possession, but by understanding carried into every home. Athena stepped back, her form shimmering now, no longer bound to her mortal disguise. The air trembled as her divine presence revealed itself, radiant yet calm like dawn. She looked once more at the crown, now dim, its task complete, its silence eternal. Then she turned away, walking out into the world with no relic, only truth. On her journey back, she passed through the same lands she had once visited. At the sea, fishermen shared their catch with strangers, recalling her gentle reminder. In the mountains, families worked together, enduring storms with fairness in their hearts. On the plains, merchants weighed grain honestly, their hands steady, their trust restored. In the forest, clans sang together, hunting with care, guarding the balance of their home. Everywhere she went, she saw seeds of justice blooming in simple, quiet actions. They were not perfect, but they were growing. and that was enough. For justice was never a crown on one head, but a light carried by many hands. At twilight, Athena stood on a hill, watching the horizon blaze with crimson and gold. The world stretched before her, vast and imperfect, yet filled with endless promise. She knew mortals would stumble, err, and sometimes forget, but also learn, mend, and rise again. That was the true rhythm of justice, fragile yet enduring, flawed yet always reaching higher. Athena smiled, her gaze tender, for she trusted the path mortals would walk ahead. The crown of justice remained in its shrine, unseen yet eternal, a symbol waiting in silence. But its essence lived now in every act of fairness, every moment of compassion, every truth upheld. Her journey was done, yet her watch was not, for she was justice's guardian, always near. And as night descended, stars filled the sky like countless crowns, shining for every soul. The story of Athena and the crown of justice had ended, but its light would never fade.